Hello, hello. Hi, Steve. How you doing, man?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon there in California. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, we have also connected by phone Neil Dunlop, PR team in Kia. Neil, do you hear us?
Yeah, I do, JC.
Okay, thank you, Neil from Washington, Steve from California. We're gonna talk about EVs in Kia and the future of the EVs also, which is very interesting.
Indeed.
Indeed. Okay. I'm gonna put everybody on screen. That is gonna be better for you guys. You got Neil there with that beautiful cap from Kia.
Never take it off.
Yeah, great, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, let me start. I'm gonna start with a nice video about personal mobility, and we are hearing a lot of things about personal mobility these days because of the situation in the world. Let's gonna let's gonna enjoy this video as a warm up.
I said, hey, watch me. I like it when you do. Gotta move my body. One where the bass goes boom, 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 ba-dum. One where the bass goes boom, 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 ba-dum.
Hey Steve, that's one
Yes.
of your products. Tell us about that beautiful scooter and those dreaming images.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Well, you know, Kia has put forth a plan called Plan S, which is a massive investment in EVs and electrification and new mobility. And that scooter sort of ties to it. But the whole idea would be that as we aim to reduce congestion and improve efficiency, that the scooter could be a new mobility option for consumers. And for example, it might be packaged into the car, or it could charge in the car, and would sort of serve as the last mile mobility for our customers. I think it was an idea that was put forth a couple of years ago by the parent company, Hyundai Motor Group. But of course, Kia would be would have access to that and could include that scooter in its new mobility. But it's pretty cool. You know, it runs 12.4 miles. Weighs about I think it weighs about 16 pounds. So you can easily carry it. You could charge it at home, charge it at work, charge it in a public space, and it's just a super handy way to get around. And to be honest with you, or frank with you, it nicely complements an electrified vehicle like a Kia EV Niro or a Soul EV or one of a bunch of different EVs we have coming in the future.
Pretty interesting. I have to give you, congratulations, because the World Car Awards that happened last week, if I'm not wrong, I'm a little bit lost with this situation. Kia was awarded with two important car of the year, World Car of the Year. Telluride, that is multi-awarded during the 2019 and in the beginning of 2020, and also the Kia Soul as a urban car of the World Car of the Year. How is the Soul doing in the U.S. market, the EV, of course?
Well, we don't sell the Soul EV in the U.S. market. We sell the Nero EV in the U.S. market. The Soul EV is not sold here. It's sold in other markets. It's actually sold in Canada, but it's sold in Europe and the Korean market. So hence it's a world car. But we're very proud of the Soul in the United States, and very proud of the Nero EV. But to your point, the World Car of the Year awards are very nice and appreciated. That it makes for the 87th award that the Kia Telluride has won since it was brought to market about a year ago. That's really impressive. And basically what it does is it celebrates the exceptional design and engineering and quality of our cars. They're absolutely worthy of it. And Kia is one of a handful of brands, just one or two brands that have won multiple World Car of the Year awards in the same year. So ultimately, it makes us very proud. It's another award for the award case for the Telluride, and we look forward to getting more.
Steve, tell me about what means your position in Kia as long-range strategy and planning. What is that? What is that about? I'm twice on the screen. Sorry. Here we go.
I've been with the company now for about 14 and a half years, mainly always in product planning, but with various responsibilities. So, in my role, I'm involved in a lot of electrified strategy, regulatory compliance. Sometimes it's portfolio planning. Things like, do we need a minivan or a convertible or a EV crossover? A lot of my job, a lot of my day-to-day work relates to regulatory compliance. So that relates to GHG and zero-emission vehicles and sometimes CAFE compliance. But the other part of the job really relates to Nero product planning, EV product planning, as I said, electrified vehicle product planning. So what that comes down to is defining, in many instances, what the concept of the car is, what the powertrain requirements are, what's the market size, the market potential, pricing, who's the target customer, volume potential, and then, of course, features and content and things like that. So interestingly, it's really at the intersection of a lot of different parts of this industry, which is to say that it's about defining the product, the vehicle strategy, but it touches on a lot of different aspects of the business, like finance, the business and the profit and loss related to the vehicle, a little bit on design. Sometimes it's color and trim, and again, having the backdrop of regulatory compliance, there is always a tinge of what do these kinds of strategies do to our CAFE and GHG and ZEV, that sort of thing.
Steve,
Hello?
I was asking you. Sorry, was my mic? I was asking you about the situation with the prices, with the oil prices worldwide. Could be one of the electric cars could be one of the more affected industries in this situation, because the consumers are not ready to jump into an electric car.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point and topic, there's been a lot that's been published on this. There's a lot of different points of view on this. I think given the COVID situation, the oil price situation, and frankly, purely the economics in the marketplace right now, the world is expecting automotive sales volumes to come down. They are coming down. In fact, March was off 38%. For the year, various sales forecasts just for the United States indicate anywhere from a 25 to 30% decline in volume. And accordingly, EV sales will come down, PHEV sales, electrified vehicle sales will come down. There's no question, but the longer-term prospects for EV remain in place. And I think it's an interesting parallel that over the last few years, oil prices and gasoline prices in the United States have come down, but yet EV sales volume and EV mix rates, the penetration rate, has actually gone up. And I think this is a function of the product excellence, the product attributes. Neuro EV is a perfect example of that, where it's a really good crossover EV. And it's affordable, it charges quickly, it's got a great size package, and it's by many measures, it's what the American consumer in metro markets wants. So, COVID, the economics behind it in the United States, globally, no question, demand, the marketplace is going to shrink a little bit, but I think what's happening is that EV products, be they from Kia or other manufacturers, are getting better and better and better. And there is a tsunami of EV SUVs that's coming to the United States and the rest of the market. And I think it's fair to say that once we get through COVID, maybe a year from now, it's probable that the EV market will resume its upward trajectory. EV sales last year were up about 14%, and before that they were up significantly, maybe 50% the year before. So, demand in the marketplace for EVs is really actually pretty good. The market is small. It's about 1.4% of the total U.S. market, but it's growing. And what we find in many instances is that people who buy EVs, first off, their owner satisfaction is higher than that of anything else in the market. So if you look at how happy internal combustion people are, and hybrid people are, and PHEV and EV people, EV owners are the happiest, and they're never going back to gasoline. So as these cars get better and better, as the cost and the price becomes a little more manageable for the broader market, infrastructure grows, and again, the cars get more aligned with what the U.S. wants, which is EV SUVs, and pickup trucks are coming. I think you're going to see EV sales resume their trajectory, which is up and to the right.
Let's make Neil work a little bit today. Neil, what are you doing there in Washington to help Steve with the politics of the electric cars?
Well, I set up interviews like this for Steve. Of course, I'm kidding. I stand back as an amateur anthropologist, and I look at what's happening and how folks in LA can see the mountains behind them, and people in Italy report, and Naples report being able to see the mountains, and in Venice the canals are clear. And I can't help but wonder if we're going to see a shift in values and attitude about EVs that maybe will help a lot of those people sitting on the fence who worry about things like range anxiety and those sort of things for adopting EVs. If this, the obvious and so plain and demonstrable effects of smog in blocking, the views we should have of mountains, for instance, will help people to adopt to cleaner cleaner forms of mobility. It's I'm going to be curious to see if it's the bump that EVs need. I don't know, Steve, if you've thought about that or have any response to that.
Yeah, I think you're right on, Neil. I think the situation that we're all working with, I think there's a few different takeaways right now that we're observing with respect to consumer behavior is, in some respects, I think there's some maybe self-reflection on health and wellness. There's just yesterday I was looking at some data from, I think it was from McKinsey, that talked about the frequency of working out at home. Now, of course, all the gyms are closed, but my point is that more people are working out at home. Maybe more people are working out, exercising in general, and being more mindful of health. And that health aspect is inclusive of what they drive and what they consume and that kind of thing. So that's one interesting takeaway. The other part of this too is there's a pragmatic tinge that we're seeing in consumers, especially in times of economic distress, and that's why I get back to EV SUVs. One thing that we're seeing, for example, with the Neuro EV is that folks like it because you can do stuff with it. You can carry stuff with it. It's not cramped. It's not
constrained. And so as we see more and more EV SUVs enter the market, and maybe the consumer mindset is a little bit shifted because of what you described, Neil, and like I mentioned about the wellness, I think it's probable that we'll see this shift toward EVs continue.
That'd be a good thing, because other than engine noise, and I say that because a Porsche 911 went by me this morning, and I didn't even have to turn around to recognize it. Other than engine noise, EVs are superior in every way to traditional internal combustion engines, and in every way. And adoption would be fantastic. Of course, Steve, you mentioned to me a while back that there's problems obviously with battery supply and electrical motors parts supply, and also infrastructure, which is definitely improving. But there's such a small take rate for EVs that the more we adopt, if there's a big rush to adopt, and sorry to hijack your interview, JC, but will infrastructure at this point be able to keep up? I mean, I don't know at what percentage of growth it can manage. I know that they're building new chargers all the time, but if there is a big wave of adoptions, will the infrastructure be able to handle it?
It's a very important point. I think that it sort of feels like maybe not. About 80 to 90% of consumer EV owners charge at home and they charge at work because it's so reliable. And we see this again and again and again where folks say that they want to charge in public, but they have to rely on the reliability of the charger at home and at work and so forth. But on the other hand, we see millions and millions and millions of dollars of money being poured into infrastructure, either by cities or municipalities or states or car companies in general. So I think it's fair to say that the infrastructure is definitely coming. There's no question. But maybe not fast enough.
Hi, Steve. We have Joaquin joining us. He's our technical director in Que Auto Compro. Hi, Joaquin.
Can you hear me now?
Hi.
And Joaquin is in charge of the very difficult questions. Then, till now, the interview was easy for you, Steve. Now, with our technical director here, it's going to be a little bit more complicated, and we're going to tell Neil not to talk about his messages right now. But no, I'm kidding. Let's go for it, Joaquin. Do you have some questions about new products and the future for Steve?
I'm actually going to start with a very easy softball question. Are the full battery electric versions of the Nero and the Soul that's coming for 2021, are those compliance vehicles only sold in the ZEV states, or are they going to be available in all 50 states?
So the Nero EV is on sale right now in 14 states in the United States. And since we've come to market with the Soul EV a couple years ago, we've expanded the market from just California into Oregon, then the 8 Northeast states, and along the way, we started selling the car in Texas and Georgia and Washington and Hawaii, which are not ZEV states. We sold them there because we sensed demand there, and we also sensed that our dealers were asking for the cars. So, in essence, they're not compliance cars. If they were just compliance cars, we'd be selling them in a handful of states. The Soul EV is not for sale in the United States right now. It's sold in Canada, and as I mentioned earlier, it's sold in Europe and, of course, Korea, and there's a few other markets around the world. So, we are focused on markets where EVs are consumed in significant demands, and that's why we've allocated the cars to those 14 states.
I put on the screen, Joaquin. I put on the screen the Futuron. I don't know if I'm pronouncing right, but to talk a little bit about. Sorry, Steve. We have lost you, but I put on the screen the Futuron, one of the concepts, and to talk a little bit about the future. How do you envision the future of the electric car? This is an amazing concept car.
Well, thanks for showing the car. It's pretty cool, and we're really proud of it. I think that car really kind of shows a designer's vision of a future Kia model that would be kind of a combination of a crossover and maybe a coupe and a little bit sedan, but with the EV powertrain. So, I think we've figured out that the right formula for the future EVs would be there's a couple different directions we can go. One is just an electrified version of a vehicle, like the Nero is a good example, where you take a internal combustion car, take out the engine and the gas tank, and put an electric motor and a battery in it, and away you go. But there's also so many more advantages to using a dedicated EV platform, one that's designed and engineered from the beginning as an EV. And the advantages come in the form of the interior package and the proportions and the forms that are allowed to the designers who sculpt the car around the platform. So, the Futuron exhibits those characteristics of shaping like a future EV crossover coupe around a dedicated EV platform. That's pretty cool. But the brand in general, we announced Plan S a couple of months ago, which is Kia's electrification plan through 2025 and maybe through the end of the decade, that discusses 11 new EVs and new mobility services, and really trying to push the brand in a more advanced, high-tech direction, and we think it's the right way to go. So the vision for Kia is one that is electrified, connected, and offers more
new flavors of mobility.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hyundai has just discontinued the plug-in hybrid version of their latest Sonata. Will Kia follow suit with the upcoming new for 2021 Optima or K5?
We haven't really announced anything about the K5 yet, so it's too early to say. I wish I could give you a straight answer, but I'm not at liberty to reveal anything on that car. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm stuck here with the future, and I have some B-roll about the Habanero. I'm pronouncing right. It's a mix with the Nero and Havana, something like that, because Joaquin is from Cuba. Then he's gonna be his perfect car.
Yeah.
No, it's
Pretty cool.
that's the pepper, the habanero pepper,
Habanero
Right.
pepper.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because that car is so hot.
That's hot. Nice combination of the name. Tell us something
Yeah.
about the habanero.
So
The Habanero is Kia's vision of what a new EV crossover would be like in the size of the Nero, which is our B plus C size crossover hybrid, and also offered in PHEV and EV. But the Habanero is a design exercise. It's a vision of a new urban EV crossover. We showed it in New York about a year ago. We think it's really cool. This car would be, 300 miles, all-wheel drive, very expressive design, small SUV-like execution with a super high-tech interior, which is to say, fully connected, ultra-high-speed connectivity, and voice recognition, and holographic heads-up display. So that's really what the idea of this car is.
Steve, don't forget about the invisibility cloaking technology.
Tell them about it, Neil.
You have the opportunity now. Go for it. Go for it, Neil. You talk about it. You have to explain it.
I love that vehicle because of what it represents. Like Steve says, it represents the future, and I dubbed that vehicle the do everything EV, the DOEV, because it has enough road clearance to go off roading. It has incredible manners to be on the highway, and seating. And of course, it's a concept, so it's level 5 autonomous. But eventually we'll get there. And I love what it represents, because when vehicles are autonomous and they're EV, we won't be constrained with the styling. The function we need now to have a big engine bay, for instance. If all cars are autonomous, we won't need bumpers on either end, or safety systems, conceivably, which will free designers up, and we're on the cusp of some pretty cool stuff. Hopefully in our lifetime. When I was a kid, I expected we'd have flying cars by now. Well, that didn't happen, but I think autonomy's closer, and so is full EV adoption.
Okay, is all of Kia's electrified powertrain engineering done in collaboration with Hyundai, or is there any of it that you do independent of them?
Well, the R&D centers around the world for Hyundai Motor Group work on Hyundais and Kias and Genesises, if I'm saying that right, kind of agnostically, and whether it's KME in Europe or KMA in the United States, or KMC, those respective Kia entities collaborate with the R&D centers around the world on Kia vehicles. So it's kind of a mix the way this works, because in a pure sense, the Hyundai Motor Group's R&D centers, they're engineering vehicles for all three brands, but the respective distributors and engineers who are working exclusively for Kia within the whole machine, the whole corporation, they're working exclusively on Kia vehicles. So what I get to is, for example, the Niro and the Hyundai Ioniq, they share the same platform. A lot of the components, drivetrain, chassis, a lot of that is very similar. In some cases, the same. But the Niro was designed by Kia designers, and the flavor of Kia is obvious in the Niro, and it's the same with the EV and the PHEVs. So we have a definite hand in shaping how the car feels and drives, how the electronics feel, the interface with the customer. A lot of that we have an influence over. And for example, in Irvine here at the headquarters office, we have
development engineers who work exclusively on our vehicles, and they work hand in hand with the engineers who are also in the R&D labs in California and Michigan and Korea. So to answer your question, we have Kia engineers who are working on the cars side by side with the Hyundai Motor Group R&D engineers who are working with us.
Okay. Let me sneak in one more question before the conclusion. Okay. Kia owns a 2.7% stake in Croatian electric supercar maker Rimac. What have you learned from them, and what have they learned from you?
Wow, that's a good question. We have, I think, about $90 million invested in Rimac, and their talent and their engineering is remarkable. The C2 is an extraordinary hypercar. 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds, like 1,900 horsepower. It's very, very impressive. So maybe the short answer is it's too early to really talk about, and frankly, maybe I'm not at liberty to reveal some of the details, but the engineers from Rimac and our R&D labs are working together. It takes time, but Rimac's sort of expertise is high performance EVs. So sitting here in California, understanding the future EV plan and looking at some of the vehicles you just showed, like the Futuron, I would be hopeful that some of the flavor that Remac's developed in terms of high performance, motor design, power electronics, motor controls, those kinds of things, I would hope that some of the flavor that they have engineered could make its way into our vehicles in the future. But at this point, we're not ready to announce anything.
Okay, Steve, thank you for dedicating us some time today.
Thank you.
Neil Dunlop, also thanks to you to join us, and of course Joaquin. We're gonna keep in contact, Steve, and be super updated about what is going on with Kia and all the stuff with the electric vehicles. Thank you very much. Take care. Stay at home. And
thank you. Stay safe. Thanks for the chance to talk about Kia and EVs.
Absolutely. Thank you to you guys.
You're welcome.
See you. Thank you.